Okay, I am live. I am so excited that you decided to join into this masterclass. We are going to be talking about how to use live broadcasting to 4x your reach. I want you to stop reinventing the wheel and start using the content that you're already creating across social media platforms, on your blogs, on your podcasts, whatever different platforms you are using to get your message out there to your audience. I'm going to help you to be able to really figure out how to stop reinventing the wheel and stop trying to figure out how you're going to get all the things done. All right, so I am going to quickly screen share, but I want you to know, just put any comments that you have down below. I am happy to answer them as we go along. As you're going to hear a little bit about my background story, I'm used to actually dodging chairs while I'm teaching. I was a former inner city school district teacher, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. You can also always DM me on Instagram. I am very active over there, Jenny_Melrose. You can find me there. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and we are going to get started with this right away. Okay, so here we are. We're talking about using live broadcasting to actually 4x your reach. Quick introduction of myself. You may already know me from Influencer Entrepreneurs, which is my podcast with, of course, myself. I am a former lifestyle blogger. With the Melrose family. I have had the site for 9 years where I create quick and easy recipes and projects for busy parents. And then I also have JennyMelrose.com, which is this outlet that has created the podcast and does a lot of the different master classes. The purpose of that side of my business is to help people be able to monetize and grow their businesses. I want you to be able to start treating your blog like a business and finding ways to really start thinking more like a CEO and a business owner. So this is a little bit about me. We're going to dive right into this. All right, so why live broadcasting? Okay, we're going to talk about different ways that you can live broadcast, whether it is via Facebook, YouTube, Instagram at this point, all different platforms, right? So first, what we need to decide is the reason for the why behind it. The big thing is your audience wants to know you. We live in a society where we have all these beautiful images, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Facebook, and people really just want to see the real you that is behind those beautiful images. So giving them the opportunity to do that via live broadcasting, whether it also includes Instagram stories or IGTV, gives them that opportunity really to get to know you. Now, by doing that, you're building trust. In order for bloggers to continuously have traffic coming to their site, people want to trust you. People want to trust the recipe that you're creating is healthy, if that's what you're saying it is. Or that if you're giving parenting advice, it's advice that you actually follow. Because in order to build up that trust, to then possibly be able to have our audience purchase a product or service from us, they need to have that trust with us. You also, when you're live broadcasting, have such a unique opportunity because you're able to answer questions live right there on the spot. They can get their questions answered. And so often we find that people are really struggling. There's so much information that's out there. We're on an information overload, whether we're just streaming through Facebook or we're looking at Instagram, whatever it might be. And when they have specific questions, they really do want to get them answered. And live broadcasting provides that opportunity to answer them and also show your knowledge. Are you really an expert at parenting? Or do you really understand how to create a recipe that's vegan and gluten-free? When you're able to answer questions live, your audience can figure that out. And again, it'll build that trust back up. It also will give them a reason to share your episode, because if you are live with them, they are asking you a question live. You'll often use their name, especially if you can see who it is via Facebook Live, YouTube, whatever it might be. And they will then feel as if they are part of that episode, that live broadcast. So the more you can have people sharing, the better off you're going to be. It also gives you the opportunity to beat the algorithms. We all know that the algorithms are something that we continuously have to battle with. I was listening to a podcast actually earlier today where it was an interview that Sunny did with Jasmine Star. And Jasmine was talking about the fact that the reason that you have to have all these algorithms is because the platforms need to stay up to date with what people are asking for. We didn't have algorithms, there wouldn't be a change, there wouldn't be all these different things. So the reason that live broadcasting actually beats them is because you're training your audience to know where you will be. They no longer have to wait for you to show up in their feed. Now you're telling them, I'm going to go live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern on my Facebook page. For those wondering, if you check the Jenny Melrose Facebook page, that is the time that I go live every single week. And my audience knows that. They're there live with me each week. They're not waiting for it to come up in their feed for them to see the replay. They want to get their questions answered. If they want the most up-to-date training, they are there live with me. So the algorithm doesn't come into place. You're able to beat it because they know exactly when and where you will be and can know how to connect with you via that training or via that live broadcast, whatever it might be. Okay, so what exactly is the setup? Most people start to freak out when they hear about live broadcasting because they're like, oh my goodness, I need all this tech, I need all these different things. The first thing that you need to decide before you start freaking out about what is the setup is, where is your audience? If they're on Facebook, if they're on Instagram, if they're on YouTube, wherever they might be, you need to decide if you're going to live broadcast there. I do not recommend live broadcasting on multiple platforms at the same time. I've tried it. It's a little insane because what ends up happening is you're focusing on one of the cameras that you may have, maybe for your laptop or for your phone, depending upon which platform you're going live from. And the people that are watching from the other platform feel as if you're ignoring them. So you're better off finding a way to actually reuse that content that you've done on one broadcast. My audience knows that I'm going to be on Facebook because that's where my audience is. They are using that platform themselves to get education, to get training. So you have to think about, if you're a Michelin trained chef and you have a huge Instagram following, then maybe you should be doing live broadcasting on Instagram because your audience is there looking for that content. You really need to figure out, how is your audience consuming their content from you in order to decide that. So now if it's Instagram, there's a couple things that you can do to actually help yourself, because when you're live broadcasting, there needs to be more than just the purpose of live broadcasting to increase our reach. We need to also be growing our lists, because we talked about the algorithms earlier. The algorithms are there because it's someone else's platform. You didn't put those algorithms in place. So if you want to have something that you actually own, your list is the only thing aside from your site, obviously. So when you're doing Instagram, if you're going live on Instagram, you want to have the URL to your freebie ready to post in the comments yourself. So I will actually copy and paste it right in the comments as I'm going through. Now, I don't often do Instagram live because that's not where my audience is. They are not looking on Instagram for trainings from me. They are looking on Facebook. But if I were to do it more often over there, that is exactly what I would do. I would also want you to decide if you're going to let guests push in. There is that option. And when you do that, not only do you get your audience that knows you're live, but when someone pushes in with you, their audience is also has the potential to be notified and let them know that they're live with you. So that you do have the potential to really exponentially reach different people if you let people in. Now, again, those guests that you're bringing in, are they people that you knew and set up with them prior ahead of time? Or are they random people that you're just kind of giving the access to let them request to join? Now, you don't have to let them in. If it's a guest that you want to come in, you absolutely can do that. But I would make sure that you have a decision made prior to going live. All right, so if it's Facebook, one of the things that I highly recommend is to set up an event to remind people the topic and the time of the broadcast. I actually use software called BeLive, where I'm able to set up this reminder, and then from the reminder, I actually go live. It also gives my audience a notification 10 minutes to me going live, so that they are given that reminder of, hey, here she goes. If you do an event for Facebook, it's given an hour ahead of time. And if your audience is anything like mine, a bunch of busy moms that are going to get distracted easily, then an hour reminder is way too far in advance. So if you're looking for something, BeLive, there is a monthly fee for it. I want to say it's under $20. And it's very simple software to be able to use. You don't need any extra equipment. You just pay a monthly fee for it, and you're able to actually screen share, bring guests in, all sorts of great things. Now, with your live broadcast, if you're using BeLive or you're just using Facebook, you want to make sure that you have a description that's going to intrigue them. So I usually try to ask a question and then answer it with what I'm going to be talking about. And then I always have a link to a freebie that is coordinated, that it's easy to see the connection between the two, from the actual freebie to the content that I just gave them. So you want to make sure that you have that included up in your description as well. All right, the big thing to remember, and I kind of emphasized this when I was talking about what I do, no matter the platform, you have to have a consistent day and time. I told you that I go live every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern. That is no matter what. There have been times where I have live broadcasts from the car because we are traveling for me to speak at a conference. You need to stick to it as best you possibly can. So a lot of people will say, oh, check with your audience, see what time works for them. I don't actually recommend that. What time works for you? Because a lot of people will come back and they're going to remember, you're going to have people all over the world. You're going to have people all over the country. So those 3-hour time differences, sometimes they tell you 3 o'clock, you're talking 6 my time if it's the West Coast saying that and I'm on the East Coast, which then means that's dinner time. That is not going to be a good time for me and my family. What's a good time for me is 11 a.m. Eastern every Tuesday. I know my kiddos are in school. I know that over the summer, it was a time where I could actually say, listen, this is the one time that you all need to be, something needs to be going on for you so that I'm not distracted, and I can make sure that you have my full attention. Okay. So here's the big thing that I want you to start thinking about. You've gone live. Now what? What are you actually going to do with this? Because I said to you, it's about growing your list, right? It's not just about the reach and engagement. And I want you all to stop reinventing the wheel. You are able to use that content in different ways. So let's talk about how we could actually use a live broadcast. So the first thing you would need to do is you would actually download it, or if you're going from your phone, you could download it to your phone, but you would download it to your computer or phone so that you then have it as an actual movie or video on your computer or phone so that you can then edit or do whatever else you're going to do to it, okay? The next thing you can do is you can edit the audio for any sounds or any issues. So if you have dogs barking, you get a coughing fit in the middle of it, been there, done that. You can edit that piece out and then don't distract your audience with it. You also can think about podcasts. Podcasts are all the rage right now. Even if you wanted to use this for YouTube, you can create an intro and an outro so that if you went live on Facebook, and this is actually something that I am playing with right now, I create an intro and an outro for my podcast, and you'll hear it on Influencer Entrepreneurs. The training is done live. You are able to hear everything, any of the questions that get asked. You can tell that it is live, but I put in an intro and outro specific for the podcast. I'm also doing this for YouTube. So the intro and outro are specific to YouTube. It's done in a different time. I'm making sure that I'm telling them to subscribe, to put comments, and I'm giving them specific directions with a hook to my training that's going to be coming based on what my YouTube audience is looking for. Okay? All right, other piece is that you then want to use the recording for show notes. Here's the thing when I talk about, you may have heard podcasts, you may have heard YouTubers talk about it, but a show note to me is not just, here's the time I talked about this, and here's the time at which I talked about this. No, you want to actually have a full blog post. And the reason for that is anytime I go live, I have done my SEO research, keyword research ahead of time to make sure that it's something that people are searching for. I've thought about what kind of pain points does my audience have? What questions are they asking me? Then I looked and do keyword research to see how they're typing it into Google so that it will come up in search. There is no purpose to create content for it to be done, one and done on a live broadcast. Reuse it. You can reuse it for a blog post so that it's a full post. You can make sure that you have your keywords throughout with your H2, H3 tags, and you are just going to make sure that you then are able to continue to use it. You also can take the live broadcast from Facebook or YouTube, and you can embed it into the actual show notes. So now, if you did upload it to YouTube, you know that Google obviously is owned by YouTube owns Google, or vice versa, Google owns YouTube. So because of that, any blog post that is going to then have that YouTube video embedded is believed to give you a little bit more Google juice. You have the opportunity to coming up in more places in search. So embedding that into the possible blog post. You then can repurpose it even more. So you can use it for your Instagram stories, your feed, your blog posts, whatever it might be. And you want to obviously edit for those platforms. So if I was going to do an Instagram story using my live broadcast, I'm only doing a 15-second clip, right? So I want to make sure that I'm editing it. Or maybe I'm going to use an app where I'm able to cut it up and have multiple segments kind of flowing one into the other so that I can use it on my Instagram stories to flow nicely. There's so many ways to do this. The other thing is you want to then cross-promote video and podcast episodes and YouTube videos on social media. So your blog post, you want to make sure has more to it. So it's got to have some images. Why do you need those images? Well, if you're going to share it on Facebook, you want to try out an image on it so that it can drive the traffic to the blog post. So you would have the live broadcast and episode notes you could share in relevant Facebook groups. It's a perfect opportunity to be able to do that as offering any questions that they may be having or as an additional resource. You also absolutely need to be using Pinterest. We all know that Pinterest is a search engine. So make sure that you have a pinnable image in your show notes. That image, most times people will say to me, well, this is live. How am I getting an image? Well, you can always use something that is off of Canva or Deposit Photos. That isn't necessarily something that you took, but something that you could purchase for it. You do want to make sure that that image is 600 by 900 or square is what Pinterest is saying right now. So you want to make sure that it also has those keywords. So there's an SEO title in the pin description, and you can make sure to use hashtags in your pin description as well. And you want to try your absolute best to make sure that your pins are on branding. So if you have specific colors or fonts that you use, make sure that you keep it consistent as possible. You want your audience to recognize your content without needing to click through to know it's you, but just to have that trust in you and to know that your value is there to want to click through. Okay, the other is Instagram. You can use, there's a site called Wave where you can actually share the audio on Instagram stories. You cut it down, you put a little picture, and it's able to have that 15 seconds of audio for you. You can use image for the show notes on your feed. You, again, of course, with Instagram, we all know that you have to pay attention to your hashtags and tell a story in the description with a call to action. So don't just say that maybe the video or the picture that you have is going to a particular recipe. It's a pulled pork with coleslaw picture. Don't just tell me that's what it is. Give me the story behind that. Pull me in and then ask me a question if I put coleslaw on all my recipes or on my pulled pork sandwiches, whatever it might be. Get your audience, teach them how to interact and engage with you. Okay, Twitter is another one where you can actually, if you have guests come on, you can tag them in the tweet that you put out. So they're more likely to then retweet it and also share it themselves. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this already. How do people know about lives, right? We talked about the fact that you need to be consistent. The big thing that you need to do is you need to talk about it until you've talked about it too much and then talk about it some more. I'm not just throwing that out there. I'm being serious from experience. I have had a client that purchased a course from me, was inside my membership site. And a year after my podcast was out, I sent out another email about the podcast episode because that's part of what I do. And she replied back, I didn't know you had a podcast. I'm like, how could you possibly not know that I didn't have a podcast? Well, it's because people need to hear something 7 times in order to process it. You need to say it and then say it again. And you also need to remember that just because you're saying something on Instagram doesn't mean that people on Facebook are hearing it. They're not on both platforms at the same time. And with the algorithms, we know that people are not seeing everything. So you need to keep that in mind. You also include it in your email broadcast. So if you're going live on YouTube at a certain time each time, remind your audience of that. Say it some more. Okay. You also want to include it in those show notes or that blog post that you have. Remember, the more you can remind them, the better off you're going to be. And you also want to include it if you're doing your intro and outro for your YouTube channel or even for your podcast. Let them know that you're going live so that if they want to be in that training every single week, they can be a part of it. Remember, they're going to feel more as if they are part of it, if they're there live commenting, and then it comes out on the podcast or YouTube training later. All right, so let's be honest. Podcasting is one thing, but live on camera with this old mug is another. I know that it can be very intimidating to start live broadcasting. So let's talk about how we're going to get through it. You need to just do it. You need to pull that Band-Aid off and start trying it. When I first started live broadcasting, I hated it. I would get totally red in the face. I would start sweating. It was the most uncomfortable time when I was live. But because I practice it, because I am so consistent each week, and I've been doing it now for over a year, it's just second nature. And I have no problem not only speaking live like this, but also then speaking in person. So you want to also make sure that you are going in with a plan. You can't just randomly hop on live broadcasting and be like, hey guys, so I'm going to wait around 10 minutes for people to show up and then we'll get started. No, people are going to get disinterested. Get to the point, show them what you are trying to teach them or share with them or inspire them with, and go with it. In order to also get started, one of the best things I ever did was I had a crutch. So in other words, if I was going to go live, I often like to bring a guest in with me. For the Melrose Family, my lifestyle site, I actually started off live broadcasting with one of my daughters, and we would cook together. And it became less about me and more about our relationship, my daughter and I. And the audience really interacted and engaged with it more because they weren't just so concerned about learning how to make that recipe. They also wanted to see how was I going to handle the crazy 3-year-old at that time that didn't have any sort of muzzle on what she was going to say. I would always tell sponsors that I worked with that I was not going to be held liable for anything that she said or did because there was no controlling her, and I knew that. But it made for great reality TV, which is what live broadcasting is. And it's why our audiences all love it so, so very much. So now, obviously, something that is really important to me, I want to actually stop sharing and come back to you. Perfect. This is really important to me because as a blogger, I think we get really overwhelmed. We don't know what steps to take, what to get done. How can we be on multiple platforms? And I'm not going to tell you that you should be on multiple platforms all at once. Focus on one, build that, and then add on to it. You'll notice that if you look at my Jenny Melrose across social media, that I have started with Facebook. Started really comfortable there, started doing my live broadcasting there. I then added on Instagram and started doing Instagram stories daily. I'm also consistent in my feed on Instagram now. Now I'm feeling really confident and comfortable with my Instagram. So now I'm starting to make a shift and move towards YouTube. So I'm building up, right now I'm in the process of building up my YouTube, trying to make sure that I have a hook when I'm doing an intro and outro and paying attention to all the things that are YouTube. Each platform has its own kind of algorithms and things that are important to that audience. You need to be able to learn what those are. I know that it's overwhelming. I know that you all sit back and go, this is great, but I'm terrified. I don't know which way to move. It's that whole idea that you get frozen by not knowing which way to move forward. And I am the type of person where I give strategic steps to take. So one of the things that I have done in my business for the Jenny Melrose side of things is I've created a membership site where bloggers that are looking to really increase their page views, understand their audience better, and really get to know them to make sure they're creating quality content for them. I've created a membership site where I am continuously giving content to them. The membership site is called Mastering Your Influence. It has been open for a year and a half now. We have over 95 trainings the second that you jump into the training. The second that you enter the membership site, you get access to 95 trainings. You also get access to a weekly training that I do via Facebook Live into a closed Facebook group. You also get a monthly expert in the industry. So we just recently had Tasha Aguso come in and talk about affiliate marketing. We've previously had Mario White talk about SEO. We've had Bjork from Food Blogger Pro come in and talk about a plugin that was working really well for recipe and food bloggers. I bring in experts that if it's something that I'm not quite confident on, I make sure that it gets answered. We also do a monthly group question and answer where we all get on via Zoom, and it all looks like the Brady Bunch, but they all fire questions at me for 60 minutes, making sure that they can get their questions answered so they can move their businesses forward. Now, I know that there are tons of courses out there. There's a course on pitching. I have that course. And there's courses on Pinterest and courses on SEO, and there's courses on Instagram and Facebook, and holy moly, there's so many. But it can start to get expensive. So with the membership site, for just $49, you get started per month. And it gives you everything moving forward, and it really focuses in on a path to give you so that you can increase your page views. So if you have already known me for pitching and want to work with brands but feel like you're too small, Mastering Your Influence is the right spot for you. So down below this video is a button that says, let me into Mastering Your Influence. It'll take you straight over to the sales page for Mastering Your Influence. It's then going to break down all of what comes with it, and it gives you the option of either coming in as silver or as a gold member. The only difference between my silver and gold members is the price, but you get one-on-one with me, which is why it's a little more expensive, because if I'm giving up my time, it obviously has to be a little bit more. And it's the only membership site that I am aware of that actually gives you the opportunity to work one-on-one within the parameters of the membership site. So I appreciate you all so much for taking the time to join in with me. I'm going to be coming back and checking to see if there's any comments. Again, you can always send me a question. If you want to hit me up on Instagram, Jenny_Melrose, just DM me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Make sure we find the right fit for you and move you forward. I appreciate you all so much. Again, write down in the comments. You can pop something in or just hop over to Mastering Your Influence, and we'll get you started today. Get in and get access to all of those trainings. I appreciate you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.